The room was quiet. Too quiet. Steve Jobs sat in a chair, thinner than most people had ever seen him. His liver was failing. The doctors were running out of options.
Wait, Steve Jobs? The founder of Apple?
Yes, one of the most successful people in history. And in that room, he might not survive. Across from him sat Tim Cook.
Tim Cook? Before he became Apple's CEO?
Exactly. He looked at Steve and said something almost impossible. I can donate part of my liver.
What? That's not a normal favor.
It was. And what happened next shocked everyone in the room. Steve Jobs became angry. Not emotional, not grateful. Angry. He cut Tim off immediately. No! Then louder. No, I'll never let you do that.
Why?
That question is at the heart of our story.
Because Steve Jobs wasn't just a genius, was he?
Welcome to Pocket English Podcast. Learn from great minds.
Where we discover the people behind the legends.
And today, we're discovering the man behind Apple, Steve Jobs.
And to understand that moment in 2009, we need to go all the way back to the beginning.
The phone rang in the middle of the night. Paul and Clara Jobs were asleep. The call came from an adoption coordinator. A baby had just been born, but something had gone wrong. The couple who had originally agreed to adopt him had changed their minds. At the very last moment, they decided they wanted a girl instead.
Wow. That's a brutal start.
Yes. Then the coordinator asked one simple question. We have an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him? Paul and Clara didn't hesitate. Of course.
So after being rejected twice, he finally had a family.
Not yet. There was still one more obstacle. Steve's biological mother refused to sign the papers. She wanted college graduates. Paul was a mechanic. Clara was a bookkeeper. Neither had gone to college.
So even the people who wanted him weren't considered good enough.
Exactly. The paperwork stopped. The signatures never came. The baby waited. The adults argued. Weeks turned into months. Finally, Paul and Clara made a promise. One day this boy will go to college. Only then did she sign the papers. Only then did the adoption become official.
I wasn't expecting Steve Jobs' story to begin like that.
Neither do most people. Everyone thinks his story begins with Apple or the iPhone. It doesn't. And believe it or not, this is one of the least painful chapters of his life. Years later, Steve's adoptive mother, Clara, died. It hit him harder than many people expected. She had always been there, always. And after her death, Steve finally did something he had avoided for years. He met his biological mother, Joanne Schiebel, the woman who had given him away.
That must have been uncomfortable for both of them.
Very. When they met, Joanne apologized, again and again. She told him she never wanted to give him up, that she had been pressured, that circumstances had left her with almost no choice.
So she'd been carrying that guilt for decades.
Steve listened. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the villain he had imagined. She was simply human, flawed, regretful, aging.
Oh, that must have changed everything.
Then Steve learned something else. He had a sister he had never known existed. Her name was Mona.
So after all those years, his family suddenly became bigger.
Exactly. A boy who began life feeling unwanted suddenly discovered he had been connected to people all along. Not every chapter of Steve Jobs' life makes him easy to admire. Some are difficult, and some are hard to defend. One of them involved his closest friend.
Steve Wozniak?
Yes. Jobs' best friend Wozniak had spent 4 exhausting days building a game for Atari. Almost no sleep, endless work, circuit boards everywhere. When the project ended, Jobs returned with the payment. He handed Wozniak a check. $350, half of $700.
That doesn't sound like very much.
It wasn't. In fact, Atari had paid $5,000. Jobs kept most of the money and told Wozniak Atari had only paid $700. So they split it.
What? And Wozniak never knew?
Not then. Years later, he discovered the truth. And according to people close to him, he cried. Not because of the money, because of the betrayal.
Honestly, that's hard to defend.
Many people felt the same way. Then came another chapter, an even harder one. One day, a young woman named Chrisanne Brennan told Steve she was pregnant. At first, he didn't respond with excitement, concern, or responsibility. According to Brennan, his face changed immediately. She later said his face turned ugly.
That's awful.
The argument became ugly too. Steve denied responsibility. He claimed he might not even be the father. Meanwhile, Chrisanne struggled to survive, sometimes staying with friends, sometimes moving from place to place. Their daughter, Lisa, was born. And because of the argument for years, the relationship remained broken.
I can understand why people admire Steve Jobs, but this is really hard to defend.
It should be, because real people are complicated, and real lives are messy. Then came 1985, the company Jobs had poured everything into, Apple.
You mean company he built from a garage? The company that later became his life's work?
Exactly. Apple had become part of who he was, and then it turned against him. The boardroom was full. Executives, directors, people he knew, people he trusted. CEO John Sculley stood before them and gave an ultimatum, him or Steve Jobs.
Wow, no middle ground.
None. The room went silent. Some directors couldn't even look Steve in the eye. Then the votes were counted. The board chose Sculley. Steve lost.
Oh my.
Just like that, power gone, control gone, his place in the company gone.
Oh my. I can't even imagine building something from nothing and then being pushed out.
For months, Steve sank into depression. He felt humiliated, lost, directionless. The company remained. But he no longer belonged there. And yet, something unexpected happened. Not at Apple. At home, years after denying his daughter Lisa, years after fighting with Chrisanne. Steve finally began trying to repair the damage.
After everything that had happened, I wasn't sure he ever would.
The process was slow, awkward, sometimes uncomfortable, but it was real. One day, he sat down with Lisa. The paperwork was placed in front of them. Her name would finally change. Lisa Brennan would become Lisa Brennan Jobs.
That sounds like a small change, but it isn't.
No, it isn't. Because sometimes one signature represents years of regret, years of distance, years of things left unsaid. Steve admitted he should have taken responsibility sooner. Not perfectly, but honestly. And for the first time, a different kind of relationship became possible. Which brings us back to 2009, back to the hospital room, back to Tim Cook, back to the offer. Part of a liver, a future, and part of a chance to stay alive.
And he still said no.
Yes, but now the moment feels different. Because this wasn't a man refusing help. It was a man refusing to let someone else suffer for him. He looked at Tim and shut the idea down immediately. No, I'll never let you do that. Not because he didn't want to live, because he didn't want Tim hurt.
That's interesting. Earlier in life, he hurt people. Now he's trying to protect one.
Exactly.
The more I hear, the harder he is to judge.
Maybe that's why his story still fascinates people. Not a hero, just a complicated human being.
Like everyone else.
Exactly. Eventually, Steve received a transplant from another donor. It gave him more time, but not enough. The cancer returned, and slowly, the end approached.
So, in the end, there was nothing anyone could do.
October 2011, home family nearby, his wife Lorene, his children, his sister Mona. The room was quiet. His breathing became slower, more difficult. Everyone knew what was happening. No one could stop it. Steve looked at each person in the room, one by one. Then his gaze moved beyond them, toward something nobody else could see. Mona later described the moment. She said he seemed to be looking somewhere far away. Then Steve spoke. 2 simple words, repeated 3 times. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
What a life! I'll never look at Steve Jobs the same way again.
Neither will I. The boy who was almost never adopted, the man who helped change the world, the father who tried to repair old wounds, the friend who refused to let another man risk his life for him. A few hours later, he was gone, and the room fell silent.